The title of this research presentation is Using Technology in the Differentiated 6th Grade Science Classroom, an action research study of student achievement and perception that was performed in the spring of 2012. Please read through the abstract to get an idea of what the research study was about and the preliminary results. As teachers, we know that our students learn in different ways and that all students in our classroom are not at the same ability level. Differentiated instruction, although it's not always called differentiated instruction, has been an instructional method used for a long time to help meet the needs of our students. Tomlinson describes or defines differentiation as taking into account students' learning styles, ability level, and interests to help the child be successful. So it's an instructional method for the teacher to use. It also allows for flexibility for teachers and for the students. Teachers are able to modify their instruction for our student diversity to create a constructivist learning environment where students are held accountable for their learning. This flexibility allows for a student-centered educational experience. There has been a renewed presence of differentiated instruction, along with the idea that technology can be used to improve differentiation. Differentiated instruction using technology allows teachers to plan and work smarter, not harder, to help meet the needs of all of our students. Although software is not necessary to differentiated instruction in the classroom, it can be a great tool for teachers just starting to use technology or for schools with limited technology. Compass Learning is one software program that is used for differentiating instruction and was used in the Cleveland Municipal School District in Ohio, and they used it to differentiate instruction for reading. The Compass Learning program showed that students' achievement increased in reading and that the actual computer-assisted instruction of the software showed an improvement in student and teacher use and understanding of technology. Web 2.0 tools can also be used as a technology form to differentiate instruction. Web 2.0 tools allow students and teachers to create, collaborate, edit, and share information on the internet instead of just browsing it. These technological tools allow students to collaborate not only with their peers, but with their teacher to create or complete projects or activities. Now that technology has begun being used for instructional differentiated in the classroom, we now have to look at the effectiveness of the technology on the differentiated classroom. The purpose of the study is to investigate the effectiveness of technology, specifically through the use of Web 2.0 tools that are used for differentiated instruction in the classroom. The following two research questions were investigated for this research project. First one, does technology used for differentiated instruction increase student achievement of concepts when compared to a control group? Second research question, how do students perceive the use of technology in the differentiated science classroom? This study is important because there is such a push to differentiate it in the classroom as well as to integrate technology at the same time. Ohio is starting to roll out the Common Core, and it is becoming more important to integrate core subjects with technology as well as literacy. In my district of Brunswick, Ohio, we have begun the transition from our current standards to the Common Core. We are finding that we need to increase the rigor of the concepts that must be learned, as well as incorporating technological skills into those core subject areas. Differentiating through technological means gives us the ability to increase rigor for the whole class, as well as modifying for students that are struggling and enriching for those advanced learners. By doing this, it allows students to take ownership of their learning and also helps them to be successful. So now we have to see, is there a positive benefit of using technology when differentiating? And is it worth the time and effort to incorporate technology? Below is a table that you can refer back to if needed throughout the presentation. And it shows the operational definitions of the variables for the research question. There were two research designs used for this study. The first was an action research design, which means I was able to conduct the research in my own classroom. I looked at differentiated instruction using technology. Was it beneficial for my students? The second type of design I used was the sequential explanatory mixed methods design, so you are able to gather quantitative and qualitative data. In this case, I gathered quantitative data first, which was a priority, and then I used the qualitative data that I gathered afterwards to help me support that quantitative data. And I was looking at student perceptions of technology in the classroom. This next section has to do with the method, which includes the sampling method, and then the instrumentation and procedures. My sample was my 6th grade students at the middle school I teach at, which is near Cleveland, Ohio, and I was looking at my 2nd period and 8th period science students, and the total number of subjects were 51 students. You can see the student demographics table where it's broken down by gender and the type of student. I wanted to see the regular education student versus the special education student. The sampling method was of convenience because the participants were easily accessible, and it was purposeful because I was studying my own students, which allowed me to gain information to improve my instruction and procedures for the class. The instrumentation and procedures was the data was gathered from my students' 2nd and 3rd quarter science grades. Possible grades are A through F, using plus and minus. And I was looking at if their grades went up, they stayed the same, or they went down. I also gathered data from a student survey, which was administered to my 2nd period class on their perceptions of technology having an effect on their grade. Their options were it improved their grade stayed the same, or it made their grade go down. The next two slides give you visual representations of the data. The next slide gives a bar graph that shows the grade comparisons between 2nd and 8th period science classes. The slide after that shows a breakdown of each student, their grade, and if it was a increase, decrease, or it stayed the same. Descriptive analysis was used to analyze the data for the first research question. The technology used for differentiated instruction increased student achievement of concepts when compared to control groups. So I found that nearly half of my 2nd period class showed an increase in their grades when they used technology. So that was 10 students, which is 41.6% of the class. A similar amount of my 2nd period students maintained passing grades. So 9 students had passing grades, and that was 37.5% of the class. Now, my 8th period class saw an overall decrease in their grades when receiving differentiated instruction without technology. So 12 students in the class, their grades went down, and that was 44.4% of the students in the class. Emergent coding was used to analyze the results of the 2nd research question. And emergent coding means that categories are established after the data was examined. And you can see in the pie chart the 4 main categories that came up. Here are some of the student responses that fit into these categories that you can read through on your own. Here we are at the conclusion. Overall, with the study, we found positive perceptions and increased achievement levels when using technology in the differentiated classroom. This is supported by Cobb, who found that technology that was used to differentiated led to increased student understanding and achievement. In regards to research question 2, student perceptions were also positive here. And Cobb supports it again that the more you use the technology, the more comfortable students become using it, and they can gain a better understanding of actually using the technology. So overall, we can see that utilization of technological resources in the differentiated classroom creates a successful student with a positive perception of the technology. There were 3 concerns that could limit the validity of my research. The first one had to do with the student survey responses, and although the survey was anonymous, the students may have still felt a need to respond in a positive manner to assure the teacher that they were successful in their instruction. The second limitation is that not all students had taken their technology course for the year. So some of the students that responded in a negative way may have felt that they're overwhelmed and frustrated since they didn't know how to use the technology yet. And the last limitation was that we have 7 elementary schools in our district and we get students from all 7. So some of the students may have seen the content before, which would have increased their achievement. There were no external validity problems in the study because it was conducted just in one classroom. And so this means that for other educators, they can use these findings to help them improve their own instruction by incorporating technology to differentiate instruction. I was very pleased with the results of the study. Since there was an overall positive outcome, there are 3 areas that I would like to pursue in the future. The first one is to make sure that I'm using technology in all 4 of my science classes to differentiate instruction. For the students that struggle or get frustrated with technology, I will hold interventions, which will be small groups that have not had their technology course for the year. So they'll be able to learn the basic technology skills and processes that would learn in that technology course. I can also go step by step through an assignment with them, and this will help relieve anxiety that could affect the success of the student. In the future, I would like to research, does the learning style of the student affect their achievement when using technology to differentiate instruction? So I can look at how technology affects the achievement of kinesthetic, auditory, visual, verbal, logical, social, and solitary learners. This would allow me to tailor assignments for each learning style, which would help students be more successful in the classroom. This slide shows the references that were used throughout this research study.